Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry. On today's show, I'm going to be reacting to ESPN's Bill Barnwell's offseason review of the Washington Commanders, where he goes over all 32 NFL teams in the offseasons they've had, and he ranks them, and where he ranks the Commanders might surprise you. So stick around for that. But first, make sure you click that subscribe button. You can get this exact same content on ESPN+, but ESPN makes you pay a monthly fee. Why would you do that when you can get the same exact content right here on the Commanders Report on YouTube, 100% free? Click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications as well so you always know when we put out our free videos here on YouTube. So ESPN's Bill Barnwell has ranked the Commanders number one on his list of NFL offseasons for 2023, which is absolutely incredible if you ask me. So first he went over what's right. So he also goes over what's wrong and what they could still do. But first we're going to go over what he thinks the Commanders got right here. So in his terms here, this is what he had to say. Team owner Dan Snyder entered an agreement to sell the franchise. You can make a reasonable case that no team made a more significant move to aid their chances of becoming a Super Bowl contender this offseason than the Commanders did by beginning to extricate themselves from their disastrous ownership group. And he's absolutely right here, man. Like, this offseason was absolutely fantastic for the Washington Commanders in this regard. And this is what their argument is. Okay, they're saying that the Commanders had the best overall offseason this year simply because they got rid of Dan Snyder, who was an absolute cancer here in the nation's capital, and I couldn't agree more. Now under new ownership, Josh Harris is the new majority owner, or the expected majority owner. A winning culture can once again bloom here in Washington. Again, before, this is one of the most storied franchises in the National Football League, and under Dan Snyder, this turned into a cesspool of corruption, of poor football, all the bad things that you don't want your organization to be associated with. That's what the Redskins, Washington football team, and Washington Commanders have been associated with in the Dan Snyder era. And finally, guys, that is over, and that is a reason to celebrate. Celebrate Dan Snyder's removal from the Washington Commanders ownership right now. If you're happy about him leaving, click that like button, that thumbs up icon right below this video. Really do appreciate all the support, guys. It's a free and easy way to help out the channel, help tell the YouTube algorithm to push this video out to more Commanders fans so we can continue to grow this family that we're starting to build here on the Commanders Report. So now that we've gone over what they think went right, let's go over what Barnwell thinks the Commanders got wrong, which isn't much in the 2023 NFL offseason. The only thing that he could really think of was that the deal isn't done yet, talking about the complete transfer from the Snyder era to the Harris era here. Colts team owner Jim Irsay recently suggested he hopes to see the sale completed by the start of the regular season. Continues to say here, well, that time frame would turn 2023 into either a lame duck campaign or an audition for the future for the Rivera regime. Sooner is better than later. And that's absolutely true. I think that, you want to get this deal done sooner rather than later, but we're expected to get this deal done before the start of the 2023 season. And personally, if I would have to pick one thing that was the biggest mistake by this front office this offseason, it's that you didn't bring in any competition in for Charles Leno Jr. at left tackle. Last year, Charles, he was okay. A 71.6 PFF grade was good for 31st in the National Football League out of 81 eligible offensive tackles, but he allowed 37 pressures and 8 sacks. 4 penalties isn't terrible. You don't like to see penalties happen, but overall, in terms of other offensive linemen, 4 penalties isn't terrible, but overall, they could be a lot better at left tackle. And you should have brought in some sort of competition, whether it be in the draft, whether it be in free agency. There's still you could still bring in Taylor Lewan if you really want to, if you're Ron Rivera. But right now, it definitely seems like this team is expecting Charles Leno Jr. to be that guy at the left tackle spot when these guys line up week 1 of this NFL season. You bring in Andrew Wiley to be your new right tackle. You got that spot figured out. You're moving Sam Cosmi inside to guard. I like that move a lot. But right now, Sadiq Charles and Nick Gates, that scares me a lot right now in the interior. Then also at left tackle, Charles Leno Jr. He's an all right pass protector, in my opinion. Not a very good run blocker. Somebody that I think could have used a little bit of a push here, a little bit of a fire stoked under his ass. A little bit, if I'm being frank with you. Somebody, a nice rookie to come in there and kind of challenge him for the spot and really make him prove that he should be the left tackle of the Washington Commanders. This is an incredibly important season for head coach Ron Rivera. You need a really good left tackle to protect the blind side of your young quarterback, Sam Howell, and this year they just didn't do that. Unfortunately, coming up here, I'm going to be going over the rest of Bill Barnwell's article on the Washington Commanders' #1 offseason. But first, go chatsports.com/bet. Get a 125% deposit bonus from today's sponsor, BetUS, when you use promo code CHAT125. So essentially what that means, guys, you put in $100, okay, to BetUS. They're going to give you $125 additional dollars to use on your bets. So $225 that you can use on your bets for just $100, essentially. So right now the NBA Finals is going on. Right now, the Miami Heat came roaring back with a win in Game 2 there in Denver. So it's a 1-1 series. We're heading back to Miami, where Jimmy Butler and crew are going to look to take the advantage here in Miami. And right now, for Game 3, the Nuggets are the favorite at -2.5 right now. And then the over-under is 214.5 for the entire game. If you want to bet on either one of these, you can do that. There's a whole bunch of other bets that they have as well. So go ahead, go to chatsports.com/bet and use chat125 as the promo code to get that 125% deposit bonus today. So now the final section of Barnwell's article here was what's left to do for the Washington Commanders, and it centers around former #2 overall pick Chase Young. This is what he had to say. Figure out what to do with Chase Young. They could let Young play out his option and see if he turns around things in a make-or-break campaign. They could always use the franchise tag to keep him after the season if he breaks out, although this organization already knows what can happen if it doesn't get a player signed to a long-term deal and play the franchise tag game. Talking about Kirk Cousins there. And then he's also says here they could try to work out a deal in which Young signs a reduced deal for 2024, as Jordan Love did with the Packers. Young could also be a trade candidate, although it would hurt to trade away a player who was once seen as a franchise edge rusher. Now, Barnwell's absolutely right here that the biggest question mark in terms of, are the Commanders going to bring him back? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to use franchise tag? It's Chase Young, because we just don't know how he's going to perform in 2023. He's been injured. He hasn't been productive since his rookie season. There are a ton of question marks when it comes to Chase Young, but man, the potential is absolutely limitless. With his size, with his ability to rush the passer, when he's healthy, he could certainly be a #1 edge rusher in this league, which is why I think the Commanders are going to wait and see and not really trade him before the season like all these rumors are saying. So, another option is franchise tagging. I think that's another very viable option. If he has a good season, you don't have to pay him quite as much next year on the franchise tag as you would with a long-term extension. But, man, if he has a really good season, you might want to lock him up. You want to lock him up before that edge rusher class and, all these really high-paid edge rushers start to reset the market at time and time again. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Chase Young here over the next couple of months. But let me know what you guys think is going to happen down in the comments section. Will they let him walk to free agency? Type FA. If you think they're going to trade him, type T. If you think they're going to give him a long-term extension, type E. And then if you think they're going to use the franchise tag on him, type FT down there in the comment section. So now a big question when it comes to the Chase Young thing is also Montez Sweat. Can the Commanders afford them both? Because plain simply, edge rusher is a very valuable position in the National Football League, and with that comes some really, really big salaries. You take a look at the top 10 guys getting paid right now. TJ Watt at $28 million is at the top of the market. But in the top 10 there, you're getting into the $17 million range. Are you willing to pay Montez Sweat and Chase Young both that large amount of money after already paying Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne? Are you willing to pay all 4 members of your defensive line big money because, of course, if you're using money on your defensive line, you're going to have to cut some funds in other areas. But, next year, the cap space is okay for next year as it stands right now. As we sit right here today, the Commanders have just about $84 million in cap space to use on the 2024 season. Okay, that is including with Chase Young and Montez Sweat set to hit free agency. Okay, so you got a lot of space here to potentially get a deal done with both, in my opinion. But what I think is eventually going to happen is that they want to keep these guys around, especially if Chase Young has a good year. So if Chase Young has a good season this year, this is what I think happens. I think the Commanders sign Montez Sweat to one of those bigger deals, somewhere in the range of $17 to $22 million per season on a long-term deal, 3 to 4 years. Then you got Chase Young, who I think the team is going to franchise tag, so he's not quite as big of a contract hit as Montez Sweat, as Jonathan Allen, as Daron Payne. They're going to try to save as much cap space for 2024 as possible by franchise tagging him and then eventually give him that long-term deal. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today's show. I really appreciate all the real ones that made it to the end of the show. Without you guys, this show would not be possible, so I thank you guys so much for your support. Again, make sure you click that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so you never miss any of our free videos here on YouTube. That's going to be it for me today, guys. I will see you guys later, and as always, hail to the Commanders.